Hey everybody, it's Ms. Cole again, and today I want to talk to you about something that is near and dear to the heart of every teacher, and that is student cell phones. Not that we're all really jazzed about the idea of students being on their cell phones during class. In fact, for many teachers, it's a source of incredible, teeth-grinding, nail-tearing frustration. So I wanted to talk about the strategy that I've used that is currently seems to be working pretty well for me. I have recently changed my policies and my practices dealing with cell phones because last year, thanks to COVID, we finally got to go one-to-one. So all of our students have school-issued Chromebooks, which they are supposed to have with them every day. This year it's going pretty well. Students generally have their Chromebooks with them all the time. Sometimes they're not charged, but I do have a couple of spare chargers that I can use. They also ask their friends. They usually have their chargers with them, and so if somebody else, their Chromebook didn't charge overnight or they forgot to charge it, they can use somebody else's charger if they don't have theirs. But I've got also a couple of spares. And then I just say, guess what? You don't get to sit with your friends. You have to sit here so that your Chromebook can charge. There's no reason for them to have their phones. They have internet access and, anything that their parents need to tell them, parents can call the office. If it's something that they need to know right away, the office will absolutely page the class. Hey, Ms. Cole, is so-and-so in your class today? I would much rather have a classroom interruption from the office to let somebody know something, or to even call them up to the office if it's something private, than to have students rely on that or learn that they can use that. Oh, well, this is my mom, so blah, 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 blah. Something else that I do to sort of stave that off is in their get to know you type survey, one of the questions is there a reason that you would need to have access to a cell phone during the school day? And then I review those because some students do say yes. Some of them may have a parent who's immunocompromised or even in the hospital, and they want to keep up to date with what's going on. It's not actually necessary. I mean, kiddo, bless your heart, you ain't a doctor. What are you going to do about it? But it's reassuring for them. And so I understand that. I also ask for a caregiver contact, and I verify any of that in my initial family contact. Hi, this is Mrs. Cole. I just wanted to call and introduce myself and tell you a few things about the class, English 2, here at the beginning of the semester, if you've got a couple of minutes. Thanks. And then that just becomes part of one of the things that we talk about. And I check with the parent if they're, if the parent says, oh yeah, that's actually the case. I say, is there something that we could do that would be easier way of contacting them or keeping them up to date? Can you let me know if the situation changes? And I think I'm pretty easygoing on that. Students might disagree. So each case is unique, and it depends on what the caregiver thinks and how upset the student is about the situation. Because again, having that reduce their anxiety is super helpful. Students have their cell phones with them when they come to class. They just have cell phones. And when there's a notification on the cell phone, you really don't know what it is until you check. And not knowing, half knowing something, I understand how much that sucks because I hate that. I'm fine if I don't know stuff. But when I know that there's information waiting for me, I need to find out. It's going to bother me until I check. So to avoid that, and this is pretty common, a lot of teachers have students put cell phones up. Here's how I do it. One of the first things that I have students do is take a 6x9 envelope and decorate it front and back. The reason I use these envelopes is secondarily because they're a convenient size and they're pretty well reinforced. They're a little bit sturdier than business envelopes. So this side and this side, student name, and just some pictures. So Sue apparently has just gotten her driver's license, and she is driving her dad's old pickup now, has been handed down to her, and it's got seats in the back, which is awesome, and she likes to go zoomy, and she's got her car keys now. So I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. And over on this side, she just, drew a nice little nature scene with some embers up here at the top and a little tulip. Good for you, Susan. They do this. They're just decorating an envelope. That's all it is. However, once they've had enough time, put the caps back on the markers, put the markers away. Then the phone goes in the envelope, and the envelope goes away. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. The main reason that I use these particular envelopes is that they're provided by the school. I do have a teacher wish list, but as much as possible, I want to have that be for items that are like the extra stuff, the fun stuff, the stuff that you see on my channel that I'm like, yay, I have games for my students. I have fun crayons and colors. I might have to put some Play-Doh on there, but I haven't really thought about how I'm going to use it in class and how I'm going to avoid having it make a huge mess. Also, Legos, although I have some already. So I'm going to look at, incorporating what I've got and seeing if I want more. So this is something that I'm able to get from the school, and it doesn't actually cost me personally anything. We do have to send it through and if there's, if we're short on funds, they might say, can you take a look at this again? But that hasn't actually happened in the 18 years that I've been here. So that's pretty cool. So that's the main reason that I use those, because that's what I've got access to. All the students, once they have this, they just put them in a plastic crate. It's a crate that it has those little grooves on the side that you can put hanging file folders in. But I just use one crate per class for, anywhere between 20 and 30 students, pretty easy. A lot of teachers will have students put their cell phones in shoe holders. If you're going to use those, I have a couple of recommendations. First of all, number the pockets, and then assign each student to a pocket. Now, this can become difficult because most of those shoe holders will have 24. You can find the 36 ones, but they're harder to find and they're more expensive. But at least at the high school level around here, most classes are more than 24 students. So you kind of have a trade-off. It may be more cost effective to actually buy 2 of the 24s than 1 of the 36s. So just, think about what's available. And then teachers will hang them on the wall. And students know, this is my spot. This is where my phone goes. Nobody else should be messing with that. And then, different class, they take their phones out. The nice thing about that is that you can take a look at the phone holders and see whose phone's in there and whose phone's not, because you need to know every day which students have turned a phone in and which students have not. The other thing that I would do, and I do this with mine, even though they're just putting it in a crate, I go through the crate and it's pretty easy. I can tell whether there's a phone in here or not. Pinch it, I guess. Okay, if there are any students, here's a hack. They could put like a calculator in here and I wouldn't know. And I am aware there are some students who have a turn-in phone that they don't actually use. It's just a dummy phone. And they'll turn that in and then they'll have their actual phone. The downside of that is you can't use your actual phone when your dummy phone's turned in or you give yourself away. So teachers generally are fine with this because it still works. The students aren't on their phone. So whatever. If you need to have your phone on you, that's fine. There is one thing that I like better about this, in that I use this as an attendance verification. At the beginning of the class period, or a little bit before class, I will set out all the envelopes, usually on my desk. So I try to keep my desk pretty clear of stuff. I keep stuff put away as much as possible. And I set out these 30 envelopes, on the desk. So students come, get their envelope, and put it into the crate as a way of verifying that they're here today. And so, I can just look at my desk and I see, hey, Sue Smith has her envelopes on my desk. Sue, hey, is she late? Did something happen? I'll just ask around. And sometimes she's forgotten. So she'll come get this and put it up. It is possible to do this with the shoe caddies, but I've found that it's a little easier for students to remember. Every day I move my envelope, and then that acts as a reminder. Every day I put my phone in the envelope. So far this semester, we're towards the end of September. This will probably get posted in October, but I'm recording it at the end of September. We go back at the beginning of August. Like, teacher's first day was August 1st this year. Students came back August 4th. So we've been here for almost 2 months. So far, I've had one student that I've had to say, you're not supposed to be on your phone. That is a much more serious conversation, or it was. I treated it as a very serious conversation because there's no way that the student forgot. Because the student had moved their envelope. They'd gotten it off my desk, put the envelope up, and they hadn't put their phone in it. And I said, you know your phone is supposed to be put in the envelope. If something's going on, it's your responsibility to tell me. But essentially, that student lied. Not with words, but, they acted deceptively. And if you're going to do that, you need to be good enough not to get caught. Because I don't like it. So I said, put that in a pocket or in your backpack. It does not come out again. If this happens again, I will go over there and push the red button on the wall to have an administrator come here immediately. That's not okay. And the key here is, maybe they have their phones, because there'll be a number of them that they turn in just their envelope. And maybe they need the security of having their phone with them. That's okay. Just, if you need to be on your phone, if you need to have, if your job is going to call you, or your parent is going to call you, or, you have a friend who is out with COVID and, you want to stay in touch with them, just tell me. Or your other teachers, just stay in contact with your teachers. Have that communication. Teachers are human beings too. We get frustrated when, you prioritize something that we don't agree with, but that communication and learning how to have those conversations, it's really important. So in addition to checking which students have turned their phones in each day, I also track that. I print out a roster, alphabetical, and I track a number of different things here. In this case, I'm tracking attendance, phone, and then we also, for this class, we're doing an activity. So there's all sorts of stuff. I look for patterns as far as which students are regularly not turning their phones in, and which students occasionally turn theirs in or don't, as well as for the class as a whole, is that number increasing, decreasing, or staying the same? That helps me understand those sorts of patterns and trends in my classroom. So having that log sheet is helpful. It does take a little bit more time, but it's like taking attendance. I can do that pretty much at the same time as attendance and it gives me a paper log to track that as well. And also, I like using my brightly colored pens. So there's that too. The key is to think about this from a number of different perspectives. As a teacher, what do you expect from your students? Honestly, it's not reasonable to expect that they're just going to be in rapt attention the entire class period, just waiting for whatever comes next, because you're going to have some downtime in between this activity and the next piece of instruction. Students are going to finish their work or the task at hand at different times, just depending on what they're already familiar with. And some of them it's going to be new material for, some of them maybe, already have done it in a different class in a slightly different manner. Some of them may just be really, really diligent. Some of them may be really into it and do more and take longer just because they're into the activity. So they're going to get done at different times. And for some of them, there's going to be some downtime. And just expecting that they'll just wait for whatever comes next. Nah, that's not only is it not going to happen, it's not actually fair to them. They're not, they don't just cycle, they're people, and they're going to talk to their friends or they're going to get on their phones. And the nice thing about if they have the opportunity, if you can work it in that when you get done with this, you can go on your phone, or in our case, I'll have some activities that they can do online. I can post those. You can do that, or you can just surf the web until we go on to the next thing. Having procedures in place for that is really helpful so that students know what's okay. They can feel secure in that. That's important. You also want to think about it from a caregiver's perspective. If in your community there is the expectation that they should be able to contact their child whenever and have an immediate response, that's a conversation that you need to have with other teachers and administrators to know what their expectations are and what's going to be expected of you professionally, because that's going to create some very serious challenges. Some Parents and caregivers and guardians are going to be much stricter about phone use. They'll just say, no, you have to leave it at home, or, you have to leave it with me. You don't have a phone anymore because your teacher called me. So you want to be gentle about contacting caregivers about students being on their phones during class, and maybe say, let's see if we can go for a trial period. Can they stay off their phone, or do they need to leave it at home? And then also, what's administration going to support? If you say, I am requiring that you turn your phones in, and the student just flat out refuses, if you have an administrator come talk to the student and the administrator says, nah, you can hang on to your phone, it's okay, just, don't make a big deal out of it, that undermines you. So you need to know ahead of time what the policy is, what's expected of you, and how that's going to be supported. Not just will it be supported, but what that's going to look like. If you send a student's phone to the office, how are you going to do that? Like, you're not going to leave your class, I hope. And you're not going to send the student up there with it, because they're just going to, delete any problematic material. They're going to, tuck it away. They're going to get a dummy phone, something like that. So having someone come down to secure the phone is often a much better response. So if you were a teacher, what are some strategies that you have tried that have either, and how effective have they been? What has worked for you? What have you tried that hasn't really worked? Tell me in a comment. And if you are not a teacher and you have been a student or an employee, and workplace cell phone policies often mimic those in an educational setting. So what happens at work? Or if you remember back when you were in school and students had cell phones, what was it like? Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I will see you next time.